Hey, everybody. I'm Amy,
And I'm Paul.
and welcome to the Comics Hall. We've got a great show for you this week on the new books of Wednesday, September 23rd. And what a Wednesday it is. We
Yes.
have a moderator, our lovely moderator, Cassidy, in the chats. Say hi.
Thank you. Hi. As per usual, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, the Let Your Geek Sideshow Facebook group, and Twitch.
Excellent. That is all of the places we are live right now at 4 p.m. Pacific on Wednesday. But if you are listening to our podcast format, then hello, you have found us, and we are available on all of your favorite podcast streaming platforms. We would love to have you join us live in the chat sometime. But if you can't, just check us out on social media, and we can chat with you in the Let Your Geek Sideshow Facebook group, and you can interact with some of our audience participation segments. But without further ado, we've got a lot of comic book news going into this week. Lots and lots and lots of comic book news about some awesome female characters and some changes to your favorite programming. So, Paul, do you want to take us away?
I sure do. Yeah. Happy Wednesday, everyone. So right up top here, DC Universe, the comic book streaming app and also programmer of such shows as Titans, Swamp Thing, and of course the Harley Quinn animated show, is now switching over to what's being called DC Universe Infinite. As of January 21st, 2021, the DC Universe streaming service will become DC Universe Infinite. It's going to be a comics-only library service that provides extensive, an extensive amount of comics that date back even further than what we've already gotten. Plus, it'll feature original comics created exclusively for the new platform of DC Universe Infinite. The platform will also be available internationally, which is something that I know people were asking for quite regularly. And now fans can subscribe for $8 a month, which is $75 a year, or you can add a $5 subscription on top of that, and you can have DC Universe Infinite and HBO Max. So really, for the price of if you got HBO Max by itself, like I just did, you could get DC Universe Infinite and HBO Max for basically the same price. I'm not bitter at all. They must have known. They're like, you know what? Okay, now we'll release it. We saw Paul's order just got in.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
we got Paul's money, and that's all we need. Now, in tandem with that news, Harley Quinn, the animated series, has been renewed for a third season on HBO Max. You may have heard that a lot of these series have been lovingly gifted off to the CW or to HBO Max or to Sci-Fi or other channels that would be hosting the previously DC Universe exclusive originals. Many of them are now finding their way to HBO Max, and that will be their new home. And the exciting news with that is HBO Max is set to, once it is really fully going, set to reach a broader audience than DC Universe, especially due to the factor of the international availability. So this hit animated series will get a third season, but they said that based on audience reaction, there could be even more seasons than just the third. As was revealed in an interview, the first and second seasons of Harley Quinn Animated were produced back to back, so they were created before the audience had any reaction to them. But seeing the popularity and the rise from season 1 to season 2 has secured it a third season. So if you like the show, let them know. Subscribe to HBO Max because we could be getting a Harley Quinn animated series season 6 at some point. If
fingers crossed.
I can't wait to see where they go from where they left in season 2, and that's all I will say. But that show features one of my favorite green comic book characters of all time. But on the other side, my other favorite green comic book character last week, first reported by Deadline and then confirmed both by Mark Ruffalo and then the showrunner Jessica Gao, who's known for writing the Pickle Rick episode of Rick and Morty. So you know she's got experience with green characters, and it's going to be funny. Actress Tatiana Maslany has been cast as She-Hulk for the upcoming Disney Plus She-Hulk series. Tatiana Maslany is best known, of course, for Orphan Black, and her ability to portray different characters who are, in a way, the same person, which is an essential quality for She-Hulk, because you have to cast for Jennifer Walters first. The green She-Hulk CGI comes later, but you got to have the person who can be those two characters. And for those who don't know, she is cousin to Bruce Banner, which is why it was such a big deal that Mark Ruffalo welcomed her to the family. He will feature somehow in the series, but given given Bruce's transformation in Avengers Endgame, it's clear that we might see a different kind of origin story for She-Hulk in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm very excited. Can't wait to see it. She was not on my short list of actresses, but I am so stoked on the choice because Marvel always knows what the fans want, whether the fans know that they want that themselves or not. So that'll be so much fun. I cannot wait.
Yeah, she was a wonderful surprise, and if you've seen Orphan Black, you know exactly what she's capable of, and she's gonna just absolutely crush the role as Walters, and crush it as She-Hulk. So I can't wait.
Excellent.
But DC Comics has launched a collaboration with HBO Max to create a free digital comic about their new series, Raised by Wolves, which is exclusively being streamed on HBO Max. It's an amazing show. The comic is available for free on Comixology, Apple Books, Amazon Kindle, and so many other more platforms. And it's an 8-page prequel that gives more backstory and context to the show. The comic was written by Aaron Goskowski, and with art by Megan Hetrick and Nick Filardi, with letters by Marshall Dillon. The story is about 2 androids on a mission from a destroyed Earth, and they are humanity's best hope for the future on a distant planet. And honestly, it is a show that I love, and I have not been binging because I want to just savor the show. So yeah, I mean, we can really expect so many more collaborations between HBO Max and DC Comics. So I'm really excited to see what they do next. Lovecraft Country, hopefully, is what we get next. But yeah, that's very exciting. That's a very good sign to see those original comics coming out of the new partnership.
Yeah, very, very exciting for what it means, both for viewers who like comic book media to join their what do you do with comics? You read them, the library. There we go. That's the word.
What we do.
That's what we do. And for fans who are hoping to see their comic books take to the screen, I think there's going to be a nice symbiosis there. But because I am not done with She-Hulk this week, we're going to go to our panel of the week, which has brought back. You guys had some fantastic suggestions for themes of our panel of the week. You can still message us on our Let Your Geek Side Show Facebook group or our social media. Let us know what you would like to see us do for a head-to-head panel of the week showdown.
Please.
It's been a little while. How do we do this? Do you want to explain your pick and then mine, and then we'll
doing
go for
it? We're doing it now.
We're back in it.
Yes. So, panel of the week. Me and Amy, pit our tastes against each other. This was mine. This art is from She-Hulk number 160, written by Mariko Tamaki and drawn by Federico Blee. And if you are listening, if you were watching this with your ears, is what I almost said on the podcast, you can see a She-Hulk, a gray She-Hulk, which I think is the coolest. And I know Amy is very fond of it as well. You can see she's got some cuts on her, and she's, about ready to mess someone up. I wish, we only get one curse word a show, so I'm not going to use it on this one, on this panel, but it's fantastic. I love the lines on it. I love the action in this specifically. It kind of leads your brain to think what happened before and what happens after. So, Federico Blee did an incredible job with this, and this was my pick.
And just before I go to my pick really quick, if you are listening to our podcast, you will be able to find all of these visual assets that are mentioned here on the show. We'll do our best to explain them to you, but you'll be able to find them on the Sideshow blog at sideshow.com/geek on Thursday, which would be when you're listening to the podcast anyways. So my pick of the week, oh my goodness, I had to go back through. I pulled out all my She-Hulk single issues and was like lovingly going through them. One of the things people forget about the character that I hope that they bring over into the Disney show somehow is that she broke the fourth wall before Deadpool did. And not only did she break the fourth wall, she broke her own comic books. She broke so many rules. And she had a power of comic awareness, which was the fact that she knew she was in a book. And that was most famously exemplified in the John Byrne run of comics. So this is a panel in which she's actually ripping from one page into the other because Marvel has erased all of her comic book for the sake of time, and the living eraser was the villain she was fighting. They erased the page, and this is the first panel after 4 pages of blank book, and I think this is one of the funniest moments in the John Byrne run, where she's ripping through the page and she says, "Are you trying to get my book canceled? Half the fans hated this gag when you did it in Alpha Flight, and at least there you gave them balloons and panel borders." And so it's fun because you can also see in the panel artwork of She-Hulk behind She-Hulk. And so it is like she is a dynamic comic book character ripping through the panel that is behind the page she is on. I thought it was just a really smart, good example. Classic green Jennifer. And there's a lot of infamous panels from that entire run. But that was my pick of the week. Now, Paul,
Drum
would you do
roll,
the honors?
please.
All right. You guys voted, and the winner was Sensational She-Hulk number 37, which is the John Byrne panel.
Which is Amy's pick.
Thank you.
I think people just like to see me clean up the confetti is really what it is. If you're good at something, don't do it for free. I think someone said in a movie one time. But I do love this panel. I will say I put my back against the wall in this one because I think I was the one that chose She-Hulk. And I was like, let's do it. If I can beat Amy at her own game, then I think that counts as 2 points. But now, alas, it is 2-2. We are tied. It is neck and neck right now. So, but this is such a fun panel.
If you guys want to give us more suggestions that are a little bit more even playing field, but let's just say that when it comes to my Green Girls, Poison Ivy, and She-Hulk, I've got it on wrap. However, I will say the panel that you chose, I love that design. It is actually my favorite version of She-Hulk in the last decade with the green scars that represent the gamma radiation that has been repressed. That whole run where she turns gray is fantastic. Basically, Thanos punched her color out so hard in Civil War II. And I do love that version of She-Hulk where she is a little bit mangier and closer to her cousin in that feral energy. So you picked a good one, Paul. I had to go with John Byrne.
I just picked a better one.
I had to go with John Byrne. That was my secret weapon. I was afraid you were also going to choose John Byrne. But enough of that. We do have some books to aim this week. And this is our weekly haul segment where we go into what we pulled this week. It's a big one. Actually, this week I didn't have as many books, but I had some heavy hitters.
Yes.
So Paul and I will each take turns going over our books. And if you guys are just joining us, the AIM system is what we like to use to review books because we find that numbers are clunky. Numbers mean something different to everybody.
And numbers are too close to math. Like, you're not going to trick me. I'm not going to do math on this show, Amy, no matter how many times you ask.
The only math that I'm doing is how much I spent on these books this week. But we've come up with an acronym for you guys that helps us better explain what we got out of the book and what you might want to look for going into the book. The A in AIM stands for accessibility. How easy is this to pick up and read? The I is interest. Who would like this book? What would draw you to this title if you weren't already reading it? And M is money. How much does it cost? What are you getting for? How many pages are you getting for your money? Or is it a variant cover? Is it more expensive? What is going on with the cost of this book? We have some interesting ones this week.
I was going to say, I know Amy's. Just get into it. I know you've got words. I
do have words. We'll finish up my She-Hulk streak. This week was a big week for She-Hulk, obviously.
Yes.
The first book I would like to give you my AIM review of and give you the aim of the book is the Immortal She-Hulk #1. If you're reading Marvel Comics, you actually might be familiar with the Immortal subtitle being part of the Hulk series right now. Al Ewing is doing a fabulous story that really brings the Hulk back to its monster roots. But She-Hulk has largely escaped this due to the fact that she is the smarter, prettier Hulk who generally retains her mental abilities while her cousin is dealing with dying and literally going to hell. The next family reunion is going to be pretty awkward. This was written by Al Ewing with art by John Davis Hunt and colors by Marcio Meniz. This is a one-shot. It does actually come from the tail end of the Empire event, which was also written by Al Ewing. However, for accessibility, it is a one-shot that does a fantastic job of kind of explaining everything you would need to know about the character at this point. It gives you a really nice kind of quick summary of the Immortal Hulk events, which I'm not reading Immortal Hulk, and I found this completely accessible.
Oh, good.
It does touch back on what happened in Empire as kind of the catalyzing instance that causes Jennifer to contemplate her own mortality or immortality, as the title might suggest. And it also recaps Civil War II. So this is a great kind of overview, actually, of the last couple of years for She-Hulk. I found it very accessible. It does help to have a passing familiarity with the Empire event, but it's not necessary from what I found. In terms of interest, if you liked Empire, this is a great choice. If you like the character of She-Hulk, I think this is a perfect, like I said, recap of what's happened, but also a tasty little morsel of what might be coming soon. It's been a little while since we've had a She-Hulk solo title. This is a one-shot. It is not ongoing, but It leaves the green door open. If you read it, you will know.
when one event window closes, a giant green door opens, I think is the
Yes, it does leave the green door open for what could be coming in She-Hulk's future. And then because it is a one-shot and it is tied to an event, it is slightly pricier, but I do believe the page count is a little bit bumped up, maybe 2 or 3 extra pages, but it is $4.99, which is slightly larger than the standard $3.99 for an issue, but highly worth it. And also it's got a bevy of variant covers that are all cover price, or at least they were at our store. I don't know if other stores will price them up, but there was an amazing Alex Ross variant that I picked up. There are some really cool, like really gritty, like monsterified versions of She-Hulk. So you can pick up which version you like best. And one note, if you pick up Marvel Comics this week, you will notice there is a really nice touching tribute banner to Chadwick Boseman at the top of every comic. They did this similarly when Stan Lee passed away. It's just a nice little thing to see, and it does have the Black Panther symbol at the top of the comic. I loved this. I loved this one. It was great. I mean, I'm glad that She-Hulk is coming back around.
Yeah, I mean, it looks fantastic. I love the team on it, and I love that since I was someone I'm not as familiar with She-Hulk as you are, that it does kind of, like you said, kind of wrap everything up for you with a nice green bow, which is needed, especially within books like this with continuity. Speaking of huge books within continuity, the book I am going to aim for you all is Dark Knight's Death Metal Speed Metal #1. This is written by Joshua Williamson, art by Eddie Barrows, and colors by Adriano Lucas. This is an absolutely insane book. Now, as far as the accessibility goes, we sort of treat accessibility on two sides of the coin. One is how easy can you pick it up and read and understand it, and how easy is it to find. I think it's safe to say, Amy, with Immortal She-Hulk, you could probably find it right now if you just went and picked it up. Like she said, there's a ton of variants.
Yeah, people probably ordered enough, but it's also not rushing off the shelves that you would need to have picked it up by now.
Yeah, and so with Speed Metal as well, there are a ton of these probably ordered. However, there aren't as many variants for this one or at least that I've seen. There is a really incredible Peach Momoko variant of this that is going for a hefty price. So if you can find that at your shop, that's great. You should be able to find Dark Knight's Death Metal Speed Metal pretty easily. Now, as far as how easy is it to pick up and read, it's not. Just going to be quite honest with you. There are some stipulations here when reading this. If you've been reading Joshua Williamson's, I would say honestly, iconic run on Flash, he's the only artist. I guess we can call this a Flash fact, Amy, but he's the only person left standing from Rebirth who's written #1 still going. Joshua Williamson has not missed a book.
Wow.
And he ended his run today with Flash 762, I believe, which he didn't write, 762. They switched up the numbering quite a while ago. It's a whole thing. Maybe we'll do a whole show on comic book numerology, but yeah, if you're reading Joshua Williamson's run, even from Flash 750, you're going to love this book. If you are a fan of the Flash, sorry, I jumped right into interest, but as far as accessibility, if you have a passing knowledge of Flash and you are reading the Death Metal event, you can pick this book up and be totally fine. Now, as far as interest goes, I did have, if you're a fan of the Flash, like I said, as a character, you have to absolutely pick this book up. There are so many iconic Flash family members, moments, little callbacks to different runs, even some stuff that Williamson did way back before Rebirth. There's a ton of it. I mean, it's absolutely great. I mean, I love this. It's a really personal story within the Flash family, really about Wally West, literally trying to, not literally, but I'd say emotionally try to outrun Barry Allen's shadow. He always feels like whatever he does, he's good, but he'll never be Barry Allen, the Flash. And so this Joshua Williamson really is at the top of his game here, writing that, because he's also wrapping up his Flash run today. That book is also out. So it's absolutely great. It's nonsensical, and it's everything that you want for from a tie-in event. like their other tie-in events, I would say it is essential to really understanding the death metal event. Like I said, this could really be treated as Dark Knight's death metal 3.5. It is essential, I would say, just like Trinity Crisis was when I covered that one. Was that like maybe 2 weeks ago? If you want to know what happens in this whole crazy event, you're going to want to pick these up. And then as far as the M in AIM, the monetary value, it's $5.99. It's 48 pages, so you are getting a little more bang for your buck. They're really great, and there's a lot. I mean, you're getting a lot. You're getting a lot of art. You're getting some great, I mean, for lack of a better word, exposition in this book from Joshua Williamson. And honestly, I don't know him that well, but I want to go back and read anything that Eddie Barrows has ever done, because his art and his line work is fascinating, and I love his character design on The Flash. And it's a one shot, so you can pick this up and wipe your hands, wipe your hands of it. But it's absolutely wonderful.
Speaking of exposition, that pun works on a lot of levels. The next
Sure
book that I would like to give you the aim of is 10 of Swords, creation number 1, but you will be seeing it on your shelves as X of Swords. This is just like the great, is it Powers of 10 or Powers of X debacle of last summer? But this is the 10 of Swords creation from Marvel, written by Jonathan Hickman and Teenie Howard, with art by Pepe Larraz and colors by Marte Gracia. Now, if you recognize the names Hickman and Larraz, that is because they were part of, Jonathan Hickman has been ushering in this entire new X-Men era for Marvel, which is really cool. Like, I don't know how to better put it. I know everybody has their favorite part in the X-Men history, but as someone who was too afraid to jump into X-Men stories until House of X, Powers of 10, this is cool. This is like, even if this wasn't X-Men, this would be the most deliciously complex, like, comic book universe with the world of Krakoa they have set up. Now, if you're not familiar with Teenie Howard, you should be. Fix that. But she has been tackling the Excalibur series for Marvel, and she has done a number of other fantastic series. She's working on the Vampire the Masquerade books from Vault Comics currently. She's also known for Euthanauts and Assassinistas and a number of other independent titles. But I beg you to become familiar with Teenie Howard, one of my favorite current writers, because that will affect your interest in the book, because with her powers combined with Hickman, we're going to get a crazy event going on here. So accessibility, I actually really like that they have taken the time with these X-Men books to create checklists that go in the back and like let you know what chapter is next. It is essential with these X-Men titles. You get warned right away. This is number 1 of 22 parts. This is this summer's big X-Men event. So if you were not reading Empire, if you're not planning on reading King in Black, make 10 of Swords your event for the summer. Or if you just love events, here's another one for you. So it is this one is tough. This is kind of like the Dark Knight's death metal, speed metal, whatever. I don't remember all the words in the order. This is gonna be a big commitment. And it's a tough read if you weren't already following the event. It does require you to have a familiarity with what is going on in the X-Men universe. And not only does this affect just the general X-Men, it is very specifically being fed from Excalibur. So you kind of want to be a little bit familiar with Excalibur. It's a one-shot, but it is a very, very, very dense book. It is massively oversized. I'm going to actually jump to the M in AIM, just because I want to let you know this is a $6.99 book. This is more than a $4.99 one-shot. This is more than a $5.99 event book that Marvel likes to do sometimes. This is a $6.99 comic book. So you want to be absolutely sure.
Actual page count on that. I'm not to put you on the spot, but
good question.
It's probably about 62 pages, right? I mean,
it's definitely hefty. It's almost about twice the size of a normal issue. I don't know if we might be able to research the page count while I'm talking here.
Yeah.
And we do have a question from the audience about 10 of Swords. Okay. Cassidy, you want to swing that by before I go into a diatribe?
Oh, you're good. No, Anthony Jacob Art on Instagram wants to know, can you pick this up as a first issue for the story?
So this is the first issue of 10 of Swords. If this is your first X-Men issue, I would actually say run away, because You're gonna go, where are Wolverine and my favorite X-Men?
Right.
But it does say on the cover, this is part 1 of 22. There have been a number of Marvel comics over the last couple of weeks for the X-Men series that say Road to 10 of Swords, and they will let you know that that's kind of the general. Those are the ones you should be looking at to get a sense of what the heck is about to go down here.
Right.
It's going to be a big event, and we do have the page count. It is 66 pages, so
Okay.
it is triple the size of a normal issue for about double the price.
Yeah.
So
So
it's a good investment if you're reading X-Men and you intend to go through this event. If you're not, it's a little bit of a harder sell. Shouldn't scare you away from that, though. If you loved what Jonathan Hickman has done so far, if you loved Powers of 10 and House of X, pick this up. And again, I'm so stoked that Teenie Howard is working on this. Teenie Howard is she really loves the kind of macabre, the witchy. She really likes those darker X-Men characters like Apocalypse, and
right.
this event features a lot of Opal Luna Saturnine, who is a kind of deep cut character for Excalibur fans. She is kind of the Majestrix of Otherworld, which is the high Camelot Arthurian side of the world that hates mutants. I mean, everybody hates mutants in this world, but so she's drawing a lot from the major arcana of the tarot and doing a lot of mystical witchy stuff with this story,
Right.
which is going to be really cool. However, a lot of people have been confusing Opal Luna Saturnine with Emma Frost. I assure you, Emma Frost is not the villain of this story that we know of.
Oh.
This is a totally different character who features heavily in the Excalibur universe. So there's a lot going on here, but it is fun. I personally don't know if I'll be able to keep up with all 22 chapters, but I eagerly look forward to. I'm already reading Marauders and Excalibur and the main X-Men title, so I'm going to see if that gives me enough of the event. And if it doesn't, then we'll see what's going on. We do have a question about who's front and center on 10 of Swords. So this is Apocalypse on the collector's edition cover. It's the general cover. But I picked up the variant this week, actually, that was a Russell Dodderman variant that does feature 10 different characters holding 10 different famous swords from the X-Men universe, which is actually a lot of fun. So we've got the Muramasa blade, and then we've got like the Betsy Braddock's like energy swords and stuff.
Right.
So the event is going to be about Apocalypse, and he does seem to have 4 new horsemen, and he is combating Krakoa with his own Coven Araco. Or his own island Araco, and then he does have Coven Akaba. So that's where we start getting weird. But it is Apocalypse. It's going to be a big Apocalypse event. He actually has a new name in the X-Men comics, but it is not for humans to pronounce. It's written in the new Krakoan script, which is really cool.
It is cool.
But we don't know how to say that name. It's not for the inferior people of the Marvel universe. This is the start of a really big adventure building up. So it's going to be a lot. If you're in it, go for it. I highly recommend it. I have loved everything about the X-Men stuff currently, but be warned, it's a lot.
Yeah, we right before the show, just so everyone knows, we were actually debating between this book and another book for what our pick of the week is. But I felt like if we made 10 of Swords our pick of the week, we would just have to explain the whole time like what you need to know before you read this book. And there's quite a bit. And as someone, I can tell you out there, before Hickman's X-Men run, I never read X-Men. The only X-Men really that I ever read was Old Man Logan. And that's really it. Death of Wolverine I read, but it was all very like, oh, I know this character. So I would say from what I read, you could, if you've read Hoxpox, House of 10,
House of X, Powers of 10.
House of X, Powers of 10, and you have kept up with Hickman's core X-Men book, I think you can just jump right into this book and be fine.
Yeah, would highly recommend at least the Excalibur, just also because it's swords and sorcery and a lot of fun. But that will set a lot of the status quo. But a lot of it has been built up in basically read the books that the writers have been taking care of. Everything else will follow, like Marauders and Hellions and X Factor. Those will follow, but Excalibur and the main X-Men. But again, I agree. I wasn't reading X-Men before this. I read books like Generation X and Rogue and Gambit and kind of those fringe titles that weren't really the main continuity. But this is the kind of, this is the X-Men that I understand at this point.
Yeah. as far as I know, this is my X-Men. This is my like definitive X-Men. So yeah, I love it. And I love a good Hickman event. Like Amy, I will do my absolute best to try to keep up with it. We'll do our best to try to keep up with it for all of you, and just maybe, just peek through the curtain, see, hey, what's going on in, Ten of Swords, and then pop back out, because it is a lot. And we just got done with Empire, so
Yeah.
we're still recovering. All right, so for the next book that I wanted to aim for all of you is a book very near and dear to me, especially since I realized it was the first book I ever aimed on the comics hall, like with when me and Amy were still just in the chat cave, which means nothing to so many of you. This was the first book that I like begged people to read. It's Undiscovered Country, by Charles Soule, Scott Snyder, Giuseppe Camuncoli, and Leonardo Marcello Grassi, and colors by Matt Wilson, who I know Amy loves.
Oh yeah.
This book is incredible. As far as the aim of this book, the accessibility, you should be able to pick it up everywhere. I think it is. I'm not saying it's like a flagship Image book, but it's getting there. It's got a lot of it's gotten a lot of love all over. I absolutely adore this book as well. Now, obviously, you can't just jump into issue number 8 and pick it up and be totally fine. But when I was really thinking about it, this is the second book in the new arc. So 1 through 6 was fantastic. It actually takes place, you find out in this book, in one particular zone. You could theoretically pick up just issue 7 and 8 and sort of understand, because they do give some exposition behind what's happened, because the last, I think, issue didn't come out. The last issue came out, I believe, around May. So, it's had some time. So you can tell Scott Snyder added an extra page in there just to explain, hey, remember, this is sort of what's happened.
You mean Charles Soule?
No, so Scott Snyder.
Oh, Scott Snyder?
Yeah,
okay.
So they co-write it. Charles Soule is plotting it, and Scott Snyder is writing the book. So
I shouldn't have doubted you. I thought you were back on the death metal.
You thought I was doing Amy, it's Matt Murdock.
My bad.
Yeah, so for what that means is Charles Soule basically is big picture, and Scott Snyder is writing, the day-to-day, if you will. He's actually writing all the words that you're reading. Wow. And yeah, so they're co-writing this book. They're two incredible writers, especially, Scott right now at the top of his game. He's arguably one of the biggest writers right now. And he's still, you can tell, giving so much time and effort and love into this book, because this book means a lot to him as well. It took him a long time to get this off the ground. Now, as far as interest goes, as far as I would say Undiscovered Country as a whole, it's definitely probably in my top 5 of ongoing comics right now. It's one of my favorites. It's in my top 5, easy. I like to say that Scott Snyder is, as far as comic book talent, he's an ROS. That's what me and a buddy used to say, which means like rain or shine, like you'll pick a book up that they do. So he's like an ROS writer for me. I'm sure Amy has some, like I said, ROS writers and artists and people that, like, it doesn't matter what they do, like, I've got to read it at least. And Scott Snyder's like that for me. And I picked this book up. I actually missed out on Comic-Con this year when they gave out free samples of it, and I wish I could have read it. But they also announced then, before the book was even out, that, let me make sure I get the New Republic Pictures is actually, they shopped it around, and New Republic Pictures actually won I don't know, what do you do? Doing a pink slip for this? Like, I don't know. But yeah, so New Republic Pictures is responsible for movies like 1917, Hacksaw Ridge, Black Swan, and Black Mass. They did those movies, and so they want to turn this into a saga. I think ideally a trilogy, probably. But before, they read Scott and Charles Soule's plot way back when, before the book was even out, months before, and they're like, yes, we want to own that because it's great. So it's absolutely fantastic. I tell folks, if you like The Man in High Castle, and if you like Mad Max Fury Road, either of those two properties you really enjoy, you will love this book. I promise you. The first issue is a lot of exposition, and then it just kind of like hits the ground running, because basically the United States bars itself in. It doesn't let anyone in or out, and it just happens one day, and that's the story. You don't know why, you don't know when. Time works different in there. It's a whole thing, but it's fantastic, and you should be reading it. And as far as the M goes and AIM, the monetary investment, each issue is 32 pages, and it's only $3.99. It's a standard issue. I mean, it's a standard cost for the issues, and I really, really think this is a book that everyone should be reading. And I am fairly certain that when in my lifetime, hopefully, it is turned into a award-winning, trilogy of films. I would like to see it.
For those who might be unfamiliar, actually, general length of a comic book, when you take out all the ads and such, is about 22 to 24 pages. So
right.
Sometimes with the 32, it may include the advertisements or like the back material that would be like sometimes character sketches make their way in there.
Yeah.
Or interviews with the writer. But yeah, so when we note the page count, generally about 24 pages of story is what you usually get for $3.99.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a good metric to keep track of.
Exactly. And I'm sorry, really fast. It's the back matter on this has been some of my favorite because first it has a timeline of 2 months before what's called the sealing, which basically means the United States sealed itself in. And it says this happened and this happened and then this happened. And then also in some of the back matter, it's interviews with people who now live in the United States. And they're like, I think it's great. And then they interview them again, 10 months later. And they're like, oh, everything has changed. And it's really great to kind of add and build that lore into it. And I just think it's really great. And Undiscovered Country is a book you should all be reading. Okay.
Yeah. I think, and another note that is important to note before we go to our pick of the week is sometimes when you go to trade paperback format, these issues, to keep the trade costs down, they remove the back matter. So if you are interested in getting that experience with the unique covers and the interviews and the behind the scenes material, single issues are what you're going to be most interested in. If you don't mind so much, you can go for the trades. And a lot of trades do include some degree of back material, like character sketches. They usually leave out the letters, columns, or interviews, but a lot of them are also really good about doing a gallery of all the covers that were available for those issues. So you lose something, but you also gain something as well by getting the whole story in one go. So however you want to access these comics, and then whether you're buying them physical or digital, that's whatever serves you best is the way to do it. Now, we do have our pick of the week for the weekly haul. This one's a big one, not only in terms of the scope of its release, but the current availability and what the heck is going on with the aftermarket.
What
the heck is going on?
I'm so excited. I'm saying I'm excited we finally got to this. It's not in our script and it's not like what we are actually going to do. But what is happening? I mean, this book already, even cover A, which is, if you're watching right now, you can see that's what Amy has behind her.
This is the Autumnal. Sorry, we haven't said the title. This is the Autumnal from Vault Comics. This book is crazy. The Autumnal #1 from Vault Comics, written by Daniel Kraus with art by Chris Sheehan and colors by Jason Wordie, whose name always makes me think he's the letterer, but he is the colorist. So the Autumnal
to be a joke with that.
Yeah. So I do have one of the. I actually think I have a variant cover behind me. I don't know the artist on the variant cover. I did just grab it, but what you guys are seeing if you're watching the screen right now, what you will see if you join us on the blog for the visual assets is actually the second printing cover by Martin Simmons, who recently did he did covers, I believe. He did art for Punk Is Not Dead, but he also did the covers for the Kelly Thompson, Jessica Jones. That's where I know him from. And yeah, the fact that this is already in a second printing should tell you everything you need to know. But accessibility, we woke up this morning and found that this book is nearly sold out everywhere.
Yeah, I know. I think it was probably maybe 9-10 o'clock, and Amy was like, did you get a copy of this book? Because I mean, we wake up and on Twitter it's like they're already gone, and people, aftermarket Twitter loves to show what the current cost is. And now again, the prices are subjective, but I mean, the fact that this book literally just came out hours ago and is already, it's gone up by, I don't know, this isn't a math show, but
1,000%,
1,000,000%. It's impressive. Now I think should we maybe get into sort of Amy, do you want to let them know what the plot is at least?
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, so first for accessibility, story-wise, this is a true number one, which
Right.
is what we like to say about independent comics. Basically, if an independent comic ever asks you to have read something before, it's not so independent. It's part of a shared universe. But creator-owned stories will generally set up everything you need to know right from the get-go. And this is a brilliant setup of a horror mystery narrative. And like our previous Stillwater review from a week or two ago, it's a small town horror mystery set against the backdrop of a town, and the characters go into this town not knowing what is going on, and so we see the strangeness from their perspective.
Right.
This town boasts the most beautiful autumn time in the United States, and so we do already have that fall and the very rich orange theme that's going on, and we meet a mother and her daughter. We don't get all of the details, but we get the fact that her daughter is troubled and is on medication for outbursts, and the mother may be in a situation of domestic abuse. If themes like that, if you're going into a horror book, you should be prepared for uncomfortable themes. But I do note.
Right.
Mostly, we're so often dealing with the supernatural, but be advised there are themes of domestic abuse and violence in this as well. But beyond that, there is a lot of body horror or hints at body horror, which I actually really like. I like a really
It's
very
super compelling.
specific subgenre of floral horror. So if you were a fan, so I'll get to the interest, but like Annihilation, where you've got plants literally erupting out of people, and like you do see in this Martin Simmons cover, you do see this figure who, I won't spoil who that is, but with someone who's got flowers and tree branches erupting from their mouth. So accessibility, the first printing has sold out.
Yes.
And when we say sell out, that's the distributor level. Your store can't go back to Diamond and say, can we get another first printing? Because Diamond has no more. They may still have copies on the shelves, but it is flying fast. It will go into a second printing, so you can check that out. And it is always available digitally. The editions do not sell out. It is always available, so you can check it out on Comixology. However, I don't advise going to the aftermarket for this. If you're a completionist and you really want the first printing, that's on you. But for some reason,
your
this
prerogative
book is going for $40 to $50 on the aftermarket right now,
and that's all covers. I was checking. The lowest I found was about $35 for cover A.
Crazy.
I don't get it. I mean, it's a fantastic book, obviously, because we chose it as our pick of the week. I just don't know. Does someone know something we don't know? Like, is it being IP farmed? Has it been shopped? Or
I don't know, because like Bitterroot is going to be made into a film, or I think it's a film with Legendary Pictures, but the first issue, first printing, is still only $10 in the aftermarket. It just probably maybe because Vault is a smaller publisher. But this is also
possible.
Let this be your warning to keep an eye out for what Vault's doing, because it has been quite a long time since a book has garnered this much buzz and hit the aftermarket in such a bizarre fashion on the day of its debut. That's usually only reserved for Marvel debuting a new character that people think are gonna really kind of explode. But Vault is known for, I mean, I covered Finger Guns, love Finger Guns to death. You covered Heavy last week from them, and they are also known for Heathen. They've done Friendo and Test, and they've got a lot of really great independent stuff going on. They also specialize in the specific sci-fi, fantasy, horror, so you're not going to see as many big superhero books from them unless it's a superhero book with a specific twist. But they are not interested in doing the big shared universes. They are focused on compelling independent stories.
Right. And I think Autumnal, which I was calling it incorrectly, Autumnal. It is not that. It is Autumnal. I really enjoyed it specifically because I love that small town horror. I finally read, I think last Friday, Stillwater, and I definitely see. I mean, there's definitely no influence. I don't think there could be, because they came out almost exactly the same time. But I can see now, like, wow, I have a whole new appreciation for an entire genre of horror that I didn't even know. I mean, it definitely subverts your expectations as to what sort of horror looks like. There's so many great lines in this comic specifically, but I think what it does well the most is that is, does that make sense? What it does well the most?
Does
I don't
best.
do it does best. Thank you. It's been a long week already, and I think what it does best for me is it sort of in passing sets up a very terrifying lore, especially, and it presents it in a way. And again, we are a spoiler-free show and podcast, so I will not spoil anything if I can help it. Chances are it'll probably be me spoiling something before Amy ever does, but it sets it up in a way that you're like, that is somehow more terrifying in how you are explaining this lore.
I think it's safe to say, though, it does follow in the classic footsteps of let's say Nightmare on Elm Street, in the
Right.
fact that the horror genre is acutely aware of the fact that little kids are creepy as hell.
Yes.
And childlike things juxtaposed with horror create far more unsettling results than like an adult serial killer who you're like, okay, this is a guy with a knife. It's a crazy axe murderer. When the horror gets to the childhood realm, that's when it gets really deeply unsettling. So I think that's what it does really effectively.
Yeah, and I looked at it as it's like if somehow Stephen King got to write Empire. Stephen King wrote Halloween Town, the wonderful Disney film. It reminds me of that town. Like that's what I thought of.
Oh my God.
In Autumnal is that like sleepy sort of like, hey, this town is beautiful, but we also don't like outsiders.
Well, then I look forward to the autumnal issue 2, Calabar's Revenge.
Yeah.
No, but you're absolutely right. It does have that very enclosed environment feel, and I think headed into the fall, it is the perfect book to launch in the fall as we're headed into the horror season. And so I think we're kind of transitioning into the interest here. Like I mentioned, if you liked Stillwater from the other week, which I think it was last week. I'm getting all my weeks mixed up. You liked Stillwater? Check this out. Make the jump. And if you liked the film Annihilation, if you like the book, you're cool people. You and I are simpatico. But if you liked the movie Annihilation with Natalie Portman and Tessa Thompson, that idea again of the unsettling nature that somehow finds its way inside of you, you're gonna want to keep your eyes on this.
Right. And I would say I'll pose a question out to everyone. And Amy, we're running low on time, so you can tell me after. But if you had to buy a condo in one city, in the city in Autumnal or in Stillwater, where would you buy your condo?
That is not our holler at the hall question of the week.
No, it is not.
But I like it enough for us we should post that one in the Facebook group later. just as a fun teaser.
Where is your timeshare taking you?
And the M for this week, again, it's a $3.99 book. So if you go for the digital copy, it's $3.99. Please try to avoid scalpers if you can. While I believe truly that this book is worth every penny, anything beyond the $3.99 price is not benefiting Vault Comics. So wait for the second printing if you can. Support your local comic book store.
Call around to different stores.
Yeah,
see. I mean,
sell them out. Make sure that they get the money, because if you go to the aftermarket, it is not benefiting the publisher. And that I get sad when I see things like this, because it does make it difficult for people to buy the book who want to read it. So
100%.
Check it out. Actually, I do believe. Sorry, this just occurred to me. The two owners of Vault Comics are Damien and Adrian Wassel. They are brothers. Damien did post today, if you were trying to get a copy of the Autumnal and your store sold out early, he said message him on Twitter. I don't know if this offer is still good, but he said he wants to give people something to tie them over until the second printing comes out. More than anything, Damien and Adrian want to get good books into the hands of the people. So do check them out, and also check them out because they are constantly posting the pre-order cutoff dates for other books that they are producing. And you want to keep an eye on those.
Yeah, definitely check this book out. If the owners of Vault Comics are telling you, I will give you this book, or set something up, you should be reading that book.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly believe I had pre-ordered the first issue, but I went back and told our local store I need every issue going on from this, because it was just that good. So I think we are fading into our Holler at the Hall time. We should get to the real question that we asked while you're all still thinking about the condos. The Holler at the Hall segment is where we ask you a question and we want to hear back. We will read some of your responses online or on the air. We do love to hear from you, and otherwise it's just a great way to start a discussion. So Paul, do you want to remind us of what we asked them last week?
Yes, we said with the December comic book solicitations coming out from Marvel, DC, and more, what new and upcoming books / events are you most excited for? And we did have some responses. Matthew Weekly, sorry guys, we couldn't choose all of them, so we just chose a couple. Matthew Weekly said Death Metal, Daredevil, and Endless Winter. Endless Winter being DC's next big event that takes place in December.
Kelsey Lynn Clary said Black Cat, and we did cover Black Cat in the solicitations last week. That is the return of her ongoing series, and it will directly tie into the King in Black event.
Right.
4 events going on, but it is the return of the solo series for Felicia Hardy, so that's pretty fun.
And then we had Andrew Wershborn and Sith Lordley say they're both excited for the 10 of Swords event, which just started
Congratulations,
today.
gentlemen. Here it is.
You're in the end game now. You're there. Read all of them.
The end game is one of 22 issues, but I look forward to following that event and talking about it with you guys as well. And then 14 Wellington chimed in with Reckless by Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. And this is, we even pulled the Image tagline for this book: sex, drugs, and murder in 1980s Los Angeles, and the best new twist on paperback pulp heroes since The Punisher or Jack Reacher. So if that doesn't sell you on that book, I don't know what will.
Yeah, that's, I think, 3 of 3 of their original graphic novels that Brubaker and Phillips are doing. They're pumping out 3 original full-size hardcover graphic novels somehow in this whole year. So they are 2 very busy gentlemen, and they're great. Pulp was fantastic.
I mean, man, like you look at creators like Alan Moore, like especially Alan Moore, and you're like, this man is a genuine wizard. But looking at these people like Jonathan Hickman and Teenie Howard and Brubaker and Phillips and all of these people who just keep saying, oh, there's the bar, I'm going to jump higher. Like we are surrounded by wizards and warlocks and witches and however they identify as the magical makers of comics. Because these people are doing Herculean feats. And it's amazing. So we do have another question for you guys this week. And it was kind of spurred on by, I guess we didn't cover a cover story segment this week, but the amount of variant covers we've seen coming through. And this question will come up, I'm sure, multiple times throughout the haul, because it's good to check in every once in a while. But do you collect variant covers? If so, how do you choose which ones to collect? Is it based on the artist, the character, the rarity of the cover itself? Let us know. If you've got pictures, please share them, because we can share your images online. Now you'll want to respond to us. We will post that up in our Let Your Geek Sideshow Facebook group. Do you know what is our short link for that Facebook group?
It is side.show/geek group. That's side.show/geek group. GEEKGROUP.
And apart from being not only one of the closest and fastest places to reach Paul and myself for comic book discussion, it is a fantastic moderated community of geek and collecting positivity.
Yes.
People talk comics, memes, video games, everything. So we highly encourage you to check that out. So we will post that and our panel of the week votes up in the Let Your Geek Sideshow Facebook group. But if you do want to reach out to us and holler at us in a different place, you can email us at thecomicshall@sideshow.com. Or you can hit us up on social media. We are at The Comics Hall on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We will be sharing images from these covers and more. We'll be posting up some of our AIM reviews on social as well, and anything else that we can think of. And we do. I'm dying now to hear if anyone has read both the Autumnal and Stillwater. I want to know which creepy little town you would rather get a all expenses paid vacation, condominium, etc. And be forced to live in that creepy little horror town. I'm sure that we'll pick our answers, and then issue 2 will come out for each of those series and blow our choices completely out of the water.
It's like I'm buying in LA. Actually, I'm good. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna sublet somewhere else.
Good.
But that was this week. There's a lot of new number ones out this week from a dozen different publishers. So we highly recommend you walk the walls, whether virtually or at a safe capacity in a physical sense. Let us know what you're reading this week. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Again, you can catch us Wednesdays live on all of Facebook, on all of Sideshow's official channels, including Facebook, Twitch, Instagram, Periscope, YouTube. I think that's the main group of them, but
the Living Tribunal, I think, streams us. I'm not sure.
I think they pick us up in the Mojoverse, actually.
Oh, great.
But yes, that is 4 p.m. Pacific every Wednesday, New Comic Book Day. And then you can catch us on all of your favorite podcasting channels on Thursdays with the blog with our visual assets to follow. Thank you guys so much for joining us and keeping touch with us every Wednesday. New Comic Book Day is the best day of the week. It is how I tell time every week.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm Amy.
And I'm Paul.
And this has been the Comics Hall. Thank you guys so much for joining us.